Post-Pivot Cellular Economy. Pivot Projects is a global gathering of 200 plus volunteers using collective intelligence, AI, and a systems approach to help create a healthy and prosperous recovery for people and the planet. Workstream 6 is Economics, Law and Politics. Our mission is to understand and leverage the true nature of the establishment, to reduce its resistance to and accelerate its adoption of a more just and more sustainable world order. Our starting assumption is that humanity is on the cusp of a historic step change in the evolution of civilization, that the barriers to change are at their lowest level in generations, and that the change might come with great violence unless we can envisage and empower a non-violent transition to a new paradigm. The post-pivot cellular economy is a working hypothesis for one such non-violent transition. It is our first workable theory of global economic transformation. And we hope, like the first 4-minute mile, that it will encourage more models of this type, and we enthusiastically await what is to emerge in this space. To quote Buckminster Fuller, "Do not try and change the problematic model. Create a new model and make the old one obsolete." The problem that we were addressing is based on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We see that the voice of the people is no longer represented in the political elites. That neoliberalism has brought with it huge and increasing inequality, and that we need to strive for a healthy prosperity. If things don't change soon, we're in danger of a climate disaster that is capable of triggering the collapse of civilization itself. And yet we're still addicted to GDP growth. We're still banking on growth to pay for our future. We take hope from the fact that, as Jim Collins points out, all paradigms end in a 5-stage process. Hubris born of success leads to the undisciplined pursuit of more, which leads to the denial of risk and peril, moving to the grasping for salvation and capitulation to irrelevance of death. We believe that a pivot is overdue, and that we are coming to the end of stage 3, the denial of risk and peril. We know quite a bit about what the future might hold. We can see that the current configuration of generations is the same as the one that brought us the current consumerist economy. We have several indicators of how this new paradigm might emerge, and this in-game, while unprecedented, is certainly not unpredictable. We have several models to help us understand how the transition will happen, and it too, while unprecedented, is not unpredictable. There is a key difficulty in all of this, that such a transition, the future comes in disguise. It comes looking very much like the old paradigm in its initial form. We're also looking to move towards a distributed model. And because it won't have the same hierarchical structures as old paradigms, we may not see the iconic leaders emerge to herald these new movements. But we cannot take the absence of a strong leader to be the absence of these movements. The new paradigm will be based on trust, and trust is very fragile, and ensuring that it is nurtured is one of our most critical tasks. We know that what we're dealing with here is more complex than complicated. but we have the tools to help us work with complex. So what is our hypothesis? We see that the current hierarchical paradigm will be replaced by a hybrid or semi-cellular economy. We qualify our cellular economy model because we believe that some of the institutions that exist today, some of the hierarchies that exist today, will prove useful and functional for a significant time to come. So we won't be seeing the hierarchical model completely replaced. This cellular model that we're talking about will, in contrast to the systems that exist today, where elements are cogs in a larger machine, cells will be more dynamic. They'll be part of an organism. They won't be beholden to established institutions. They will focus on what is right for their contributors, their beneficiaries, and wider society. And when their utility is superseded, their elements will be recycled into new cells seamlessly and without resistance. The cells will come in a vast variety of shapes and sizes, some transient, some longer term. Some will last for minutes, some will last for centuries. Some will be made up of one person, some everybody on the planet. They'll be nested. They'll exist like systems. They'll exist at all scales. The societal cells will include culture, the political institutions, tribe, family, household, individual events, interactions, experience, and moments. Economic cells include finance, the market, organizations, divisions in those organizations, teams, projects, individual workers, and the tasks, transactions, and steps that those workers would take on a day-to-day basis. An individual engaging with the cellular economy will seamlessly move through hierarchies and cells and supercells to deliver all of the functions that they need as they go through their day. The overall system will be interdependent. The universe is a cell. So is this galaxy, the solar system, and the planet. And the planet itself is made up of society, ecology, and economy. And society is driven by a cultural hegemony, which is what they want us to think. And it is polarizing at the moment. And ecologically, the narrative is that natural resources are still limitless and that we can still continue to consume the way we've been consuming. We need to infect society with a concept of collaboration. We need to call out that enough is enough in terms of the use of natural resources. There are limits, and we have been exceeding them for far too long. And we need an entirely new model of economy that will pull all of this together and deliver us the brighter future that we all hope for. Pivot Project is building a system of systems whole earth model. In response to that, the cellular economy is a systems of systems whole economy model. One key concept in the old paradigm is the idea of neoliberal progress, which is looking to extract the maximum financial benefit out of the system for those at the top. In doing so, it is willing to tolerate some societal benefits accruing at the bottom, but only as a side effect of its primary goal. We've compared all of the economic models out there, and one in particular strikes us. The donut economic model sets the goals for society moving forward, and the cellular economy aligns extremely well with that. The cellular economy is capable of reducing GDP growth. It's capable of reducing its overall impact on the global ecology because of that. But it's also, at the same time, while reducing the cost on the planet and the cost to people, it's capable of increasing the healthy prosperity that is so desperately needed to bring everybody above the social foundation. Where the donut sets the goals for a future economy, cells can relentlessly deliver on them until the new prosperity has been achieved. When you consider the cellular economy in the context of the circular economy sees closed loop resource flows where what goes into the system is utilized all the way through and is pumped back in, and it doesn't come out as waste. It can be applied to individual cells within the cellular economy. It can be applied to supercells, to cell chains, or to the entire economy itself. And it can progress towards it at a very rapid pace. The key to the cellular economy concept is its ability to explain how a transition can occur, how the existing institutions can start to be infiltrated by cells in the gaps between the institutions, then within the institutions themselves. Then chains emerge within and between institutions. Eventually, the overall hierarchical shape is taken over by the amorphous shape of the organism until a comprehensive and cohesive economy emerges that is held together by a dynamic collaborative culture. Because it works, and because it works for both beneficiaries and contributors, it will stay together, and those parts that don't work will be superseded by new parts constantly evolving and taking their position in the overall system. Eventually, it will deliver on the breadth of the social needs while reducing the pressure on the planet. Individuals will see a seamless transition from the hierarchical model to the cellular model. First, by picking up possibly something as simple as an app on their phone, some very simple individual functions. More and more utility will be drawn from the cellular economy than the hierarchical economy. Eventually, the majority of the interactions between people and institutions and the overall economy will be cellular rather than institutional. And eventually there will be no aspect of the old economy in play in society. So we'll see a non-violent transfer of power from a hierarchical system right the way through to a fully cellular system with no revolutionary event, no big event marking the transition. It'll just happen that one day the powers that be today, will wake up and we will no longer have any use for them. We will be living our lives entirely in a new paradigm. So what might go wrong in all of this? Well, like all transitions, it will involve a step backwards to go forwards. Eventually, a good enough system will see the tipping point where society will transition to the new paradigm. That will continue to grow and evolve. Eventually, in the longer term, this new paradigm will become victim of its own success, just like the old paradigm has done. But if the timing of the consumerist society is repeated in the next paradigm, then it will be the end of the century before we find ourselves in this position again. And that makes any degradation of the new system moot, as somewhere mid-century, we will find ourselves in a point where we'll know whether or not we will have a planet to inhabit by the end of the century. That is our post-pivot cellular economy. Thank you for listening.